Let's talk about sexual immorality. From the biblical standpoint, sex is to be between man and wife. That's the only place that the Bible sanctions sex to be had without any consequences or without the label of sin. The reason being is because that covenant between man and wife in marriage is supposed to mirror the covenant that we have between us and God in salvation. The unconditional love, the constant growth and respect that we're supposed to learn and grow from each other. And then also the only caveat to that being dismissible being adultery, aka breaking said covenant. There are even some physical implications, but it's not based on anything in the Bible. It's just me thinking biologically, but I'll leave those. We who are saved should know the context behind when and where you can have sex, meaning what order God has set for sex to be able to be had. Yet we in the church are some of the biggest hypocrites when it comes to it, because we will preach the word all day long, except around sexual immorality. We will skip that entirely and move on to something totally different without addressing one of the main sins that we as people have in the church. And this is nothing new, because sexual immorality was a sin that was occurring even back within the biblical times. If you look at Revelation 2, there were two churches in particular that Jesus called out for their sexual immorality. But we don't say anything about it, yet and still we wonder why there are so many single mothers in the church and why so many of the men in the church have multiple children by multiple women, and the community seems to not be as strong, and the fabric of our culture seems to be tearing apart, and we seem to be unraveling at the seams because there's no more nuclear family. There's no more traditional family. It's get in where you fit in. If a child comes, pay for it and let that be. We also see many people in leadership positions of the church committing sexually immoral acts and being accused of things that should never be on the docket for them. The word of God is a two-edged sword. And what that means is, as I preach it to you, if I'm committing anything that I'm talking about, I also will be checked and cut by the same word that I'm using to check and cut you with. And because of that shame that comes with having those conversations, a lot of people in the church who are living immorally will not speak on sexual immorality or sexual sin. The other side is, when it comes to who you can have sex with, a lot of people don't want to touch the LGBT community and don't want to offend anybody, and rightfully so. But at the same time, we do have to stand on the word of God regardless. We will go into places where we know that people are not of God and have never claimed to be of God, and accuse them of sin and cast judgment upon them, yet go back to our own sanctuaries and commit the very same sins and sexual immoral acts that we're accusing other people of. And the reason sexual immorality is such a hard sin and such an easily distracting sin is because of how self-indulgent it is. Paul says it's the only sin that you commit that also you sin against yourself as well as God. And the reason for that, I believe, is because sex is considered to be a covenant in God's eyes. So having sex with multiple people is you essentially showing yourself to be incapable of a long-lasting covenant, to be untrustworthy in your side of a covenant, because you are consistently breaking the covenant to start a new covenant with another person on such a frequent basis. Especially when God's order was that there would be one covenant between man and wife till death. One of the main things that Jesus did in his walk was counter the culture of the society he was in order to show them the right way and the path that God had set out. We as the church have to do the same thing, not only in the words that we say, but by leading by example first.